The sky bled crimson, the earth no less so. The silent laughter of death mingled with the wind, dancing madly across every corner of the Vale of Sorrow. The ground lay smothered in flesh and steel, as if the world itself had retched forth all the dead it had ever taken. Upon this vast sea of blood and ruin, the rising sun cast its light upon the gathered carrion beasts, feasting without shame. From the northern Reaper Hills, the vale stretched like a brown, sluggish river, and once more, it had swallowed the brave sons of the eastern lands. Across the wide valley, among the mounds of the dead, faint and trembling moans began to rise, slipping through the madness of the howling wind. The cries clashed hopelessly with the wind's shrieks, left alone in their despair. No one came to lift them from this pit of death. A little while later, as the sun climbed toward its peak, the moans fell silent. All around the valley, the tall trees swayed violently in the gusts, bowing left and right, as if they were bidding farewell to the souls rising from the earth toward the sky. A bold crow, feasting contentedly on the deep gash carved into the chest of a knight who lay motionless yet not long dead, tore away a few more morsels before it was startled by the sudden sound of approaching footsteps. With a sharp caw, it fluttered off to join its companions just a few paces away. The footsteps, growing louder with each beat, belonged to King Vartan and his companion Eric, followed closely by a handful of their soldiers. Before the royal tents, mere hundreds of paces away, the king stood under the weary gaze of his lords, searching for his dearest friend, Lord Leonard Valmore, father of young Eric. His eyes combed the field in vain. Among the watchers, Lord Callan stroked his broad, protruding chin as he fixed his stare upon King Vartan. Turning to the lords beside him, he muttered, "A futile search. None could have survived that madness." Lord Elladan, nodding grimly in agreement, added, "Aye, we all saw it. An onslaught born for death. Not even the gods could have emerged from that chaos alive." King Vartan, his eyes hollow with despair, moved through the mounds of lifeless bodies, searching for his old friend. With a sharp command, he ordered his soldiers to spread out across the field. Only a few steps away stood young Eric, frozen in place. It was his first taste of battle, and perhaps his last glimpse of his father. Though his face remained as still and cold as carved stone, grief and terror clawed beneath his skin, desperate to break free. Vartan pressed on, refusing to rest. One by one, he checked each fallen man, unmoved by the warnings of Sir Wilson, his commander, who had urged him not to enter the battlefield so soon. But the king would not be swayed. By now, his crimson armor and the cloak that draped from his shoulders to his heels were caked with mud. He had knelt beside too many corpses. At the base of one final mound, where blood and earth had mingled into black mire, the king sank to his knees once more. He reached for the sigil etched upon the center of his breastplate and tilted his face to the sky. His reddish-brown eyes searched the heavens. He was not a man of prayer, but for his friend, for Valmore, he would make an exception. Yet no skies parted, no divine voice answered. Only silence greeted him. Swallowed by that silence, he lowered his head and slowly rose. His eyes found Eric's. So young, he thought. Too young to bear this. His heart, already heavy with sorrow, was near breaking. He turned, ready to speak words of surrender to his men, when a sudden shout cut through the valley air. From atop a distant knoll, some 300 paces away, a knight cried out, "Lord Valmore lives!" He raised his arm, pointing frantically to the spot. The king and Eric did not hesitate. Together, they ran toward the hill. Lord Valmore knelt in the center of a ring of corpses, clutching the hilt of his sword, which was planted deep into the earth. His head hung low, eyes closed, each breath drawn with agonizing effort. Young Eric's eyes flew wide in horror, and the stony mask on his face shattered as a cry escaped his lips. Valmore released his grip and collapsed beside his blade. It was as if he had held on only long enough to see his son arrive. His lips parted, and a frail breath slipped out. At once, the soldiers lifted Lord Valmore and rushed him toward the healer's tent. The moment the guards burst through the flaps of Old Wise's tent, carrying Valmore in their arms, the elderly healer startled, dropping the wooden bowl of steaming water from his hands. After a brief, stunned pause, he cleared the wooden table in front of him with a single sweep. "Lay him here, quickly," he barked. Wise was as skilled as he was seasoned. His peers called him the Hand of Magic, yet even those famed hands seemed powerless against wounds such as these. He looked down at Valmore's torn body with helpless eyes. "Be quick, John," he snapped at his young apprentice. As the bloody armor was stripped away, revealing the mangled flesh beneath, Wise's eyes widened in disbelief. Never before had he seen a man so viciously carved apart and still drawing breath. With trembling urgency, he cried, "Hurry! Hot water, poppy milk, and a poultice of canary herb and tobacco. Bring my suture kit as well." Eric's tearful eyes turned toward the wooden table where his father now lay unconscious. Stepping forward, he took his hand and gripped it tightly. Silently, he began to pray to the Lord of the Skies. Outside, the other lords gathered around the tent, whispering and arguing in hushed tones, debating whether the great Lord Valmore would live or die. The Crimson King leaned down beside Wise, his voice low with dread. "What is his condition?" he asked. Wise replied in the same quiet tone. "My lord, there is scarcely an inch of his body uncut or unsplit. That he still draws breath is a miracle, but how long he can endure in this state, I do not know." In the lands of the Northern King, Ice Eye as he was called, 2 soldiers stood watch near the southern gate. But without warning, the ground beneath them trembled, and they were thrown to the earth. Still dazed, they stared ahead in stunned silence as something dark and gleaming began to rise from the soil just a few paces before them. It was a stone, black as pitch and smooth as glass. From within that shadowed mass, a fearsome silhouette emerged. As the soldiers turned in panic to flee, a creature burst forth with unnatural speed. One of the men was caught mid-step. The thing drove a black blade deep into his chest. The other froze, rooted by terror. The monster, its skin black as midnight, crowned with 3 horns, and eyes that gleamed like molten silver, grinned with twisted pleasure as it slowly withdrew its blade. Its bony, deformed face contorted into a wicked smile. The paralyzed soldier could not even open his mouth to scream. In the blink of an eye, the beast lunged, seizing him by the throat with a hand large enough to crush stone. It slammed him against a tree with bone-rattling force. There was ecstasy in the kill. The creature, savoring the moment, loosened its grip just enough to let the man gasp for air. Then it leaned in, its voice like gravel over ice, and hissed 2 words, "Take me to your lord."